Uh, Good morning, students. Since we have already uh, moved on to SEM 5 of our syllabus, of our semester, we don't exactly know whether SEM 4 exams will take place or not. Whether the syllabus will merge with SEM 5 or not, we don't exactly know. So, what we can do is we can start with our preparation for SEM 5. So, my assignment with you today is figures of speech. Uh, Now, I hope that you have a pen and paper along with you. So, we'll start with the definition of a figure of speech. What is figure of speech? In fact, the section that I am covering today will be a two-part section. This section falls under the category of rhetoric and prosody. Okay, so this is rhetoric, figures of speech is about rhetoric that we are dealing. So the definition, we will be starting with the definition of a figure of speech. What do you mean by a figure of speech? So the definition is, a figure of speech is a word or phrase used in a non-literal sense, used in a non-literal sense, so that the speech and writing, so that the speech and writing becomes more persuasive, 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 comma, vivid, vivid, and relatable, relatable, and relatable. So, going by this definition that we have about figure of speech, to give you a very common example of what figure of speech is, as I am talking to you now, we are using a kind of a vocabulary which can be termed, or which is termed, a colloquial speech. This is colloquial speech. Colloquial means day-to-day language. So the technical term for day-to-day language is colloquial. Okay. The technical term for a particular word which was used earlier and is not used now, the technical term is archaic, Archaic, archaic. So archaic word means, and in fact you will encounter the word archaic a lot of times during this syllabus of yours, during semester 5. When you come to the Old English period and the Middle English period, when you go through it, you will find that there are certain words. In fact, when we were doing Shakespeare, there were certain words which were used by Shakespeare at that point in time, but now those words are not used. The form has actually changed, so those words have become obsolete. They are archaic words. The words we are using to communicate with each other, this is called colloquial speech. But the point is this, suppose if I am a creative person and if I want to write something, be it a poem or a prose, definitely I need language. But do you think that the language that we use to communicate in our daily lives is a sufficient means of expression? Obviously, language is needed to write a particular poem or a piece of prose. But along with that, you need other things also. There are certain technical factors that come into consideration. There are certain ornaments of language, if I can quote it that way. There are certain ornaments of language. Now, ornaments of language, we wear ornaments to show off, to show others that I have these ornaments, and to invite the thieves to rob us. Jokes apart. So why do we wear ornaments? Now I am at home. I am very comfortable wearing a t-shirt and a Bermuda. But when I am at college, definitely the dress code changes. It has to be a very formal kind of a clothing. But when I visit a birthday party, when I'm invited to a birthday party or a marriage reception party, for that example, the kind of clothes that we wear, this is the body. In other words, the language that we use in day to day life, body remains the same, clothes change. So, that changing of clothes for a special occasion is actually ornamentation. Similarly, when I am communicating with you, I am using a day to day language, a colloquial language. But when I am writing a poem or a piece of prose, I will be using certain ornaments on this particular day to day language to make it more poetic, to make it more artistic, make it sound artistic. Okay, so that is when figures of speech actually come into the scene. So you can say that using a figure of speech in language is actually like sprinkling salt over a particular condiment or a particular food that you have to give it a kind of a taste. Because if it's without sugar or salt, there won't be any taste as such. Okay, so figures of speech is like a kind of a sugar or salt, you might say, that you sprinkle over it, over the salad, so that its taste increases. Similarly, language is bejeweled with certain figures of speech so that we can kind of bejewel the language. Okay, so that is what figure of speech is all about. Figure of speech is about putting ornaments onto the language that we use in day to day life. So we will be going through some of the figures of speech today. So the first figure of speech that we will be dealing today is simile. 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 The first figure of speech that we will be dealing today is simile. Now, what is a simile? Now, the definition of simile is it compares one thing to another thing. Simile compares one thing to another thing of a different kind, and yet alike, ALIKE, in some significant way, and yet alike in some significant way. Okay, now suppose if I give you an example to this particular definition, because the definition becomes a bit cumbersome to understand. So to give you an example to simile, suppose if I say camel is like the ship of desert. Camel is like the ship of desert. Okay, now in this particular sentence there is a comparison. Camel is being compared to a ship, SHIP. Camel is compared to a ship. The ship plies on water and camel plies on the desert. So this is the reason why camel has been compared to a ship, SHIP. So in this particular sentence we have a comparison. Camel is compared to a ship of the desert. Definitely camel is the ship of the desert. And on the other hand, the second point that I want to mention here is that you also have camel is like. So when I use the word like here, it is a kind of a connecting the two counterparts, camel and the ship. So where there is a comparison, if you have a comparison in a sentence which is connected with the word like or as, like or as, in this particular case, the sentence that I gave you was, camel is like the ship of desert. So there is a comparison. Camel has been compared to a ship and it is connected with the word like, L-I-K-E. Okay, this is the second point. The first is there has to be a comparison. The second is it has to be connected either with the word like or as, as. And the third point here is, in a simile, the comparison is explicit. In a particular simile, the comparison is explicit. Explicit in a sense that when you look at the sentence and when you see that there is a comparison and it has been connected with the word like and as, it becomes very clear for you to understand that this particular sentence is an example of simile. So this is the reason why it is also called an explicit comparison. Explicit money, which can be behold, which can be seen or understood or realized quite soon with the help of those particular connectors like and as. So it becomes an example of simile. SIMILE. Now I give you another example of simile. Suppose if I say that my beloved is like red rose. My beloved is like red rose. My beloved is like red rose. Now what is the comparison here? The beloved has been compared to the red rose. The beloved has been compared to the red rose. And the connecting word here is my beloved is like a red rose. So the word like is also present and the comparison is explicit. You have to remember that while attempting figures of speech in your examination, on your examination paper, you need to write down the sentence from the question paper onto your answer sheet. Suppose the first line, you will be given 3 or 4 lines of a particular poem. You need to write down, suppose the first line is an example of simile. So you need to write down the first line on your answer sheet. Then you need to write this is an example or this line is an example of simile. Then you need to give a definition of the simile. What is a simile? You need to define that. And in the third section, you need to explain why this particular sentence is an example of simile. So the first is identification. Then comes definition of that particular figure of speech. If it's a simile, so you need to define a simile. And the third deals with a comment or a kind of an explanation as to why this particular sentence is an example of simile. Okay, so this is what simile is all about. To give you another example, he eats like a pig. He eats like a pig. Again, you find a comparison here. He eats like a pig. So what is being compared here? His eating habit is being compared to a particular eating habit of the pig. Okay, so and the word and there is also kind of a connecting word like present in this particular sentence. So this becomes an example of simile. Now you have to see that why are we learning these figures of speech, and it becomes very useful when you understand these figures of speech, because some of you are very creative out there. You people must be writing something, a poem or a prose or something like that, or creating certain things. You need to remember that these figures of speech are very much a part of poetry or poem that you people are writing. Because what we do is, suppose when we hear to Hindi movies or Hindi songs, Bollywood songs or Hollywood songs, or for that example, Tollywood's songs, we find that obviously songs are actually lyrics written by a particular person. In the case of Tollywood, we find Srijato writing certain very good songs. You will find that each and every song is actually a conglomeration of a number of figures of speech. You will find that a number of figures of speech are inherent in that particular song that you are listening to. Be a little conscious of what you are listening to and you will find lots of comparison in it. I remember a particular song from 1942, a love story, released in the year 1995 or 1996 when I was in class 5 or 6. I remember it was Anil Kapoor, Manisha Koirala, and there was this particular song called एक लड़की को देखा तो ऐसा लगा जैसे खिलता गुलाब, जैसे शायर का ख्वाब, जैसे उजली किरण, what not. माने the girl is everything. So this whole song is actually an example of simile. The song, the foundation of the song is simile because each and every line of this particular song is dependent on simile. Okay, but there is another figure of speech involved here, but the basic figure of speech involved here is simile. The other figure of speech that is involved here is very common for us. We people know this very well. We are used to doing certain things. Whenever we are writing a love letter to our beloved, or writing an email, or writing a WhatsApp message to our beloveds, we exaggerate things. एक तो बाड़िए चढ़िए बोली, थोड़ा बढ़ा चढ़ा के बोलते हैं अपने बिलवड के बारे में या अपने लवर के बारे में. तो दिस सॉन्ग इज ऑल्सो एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ हाइपरबोल और एग्जाजरेशन. हाइपरबोल का ही और एक सिनोनिमस टर्म है एग्जाजरेशन, विच मीन्स हाई फ्लोन काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. डेलिबरेटली इतना ज़्यादा एग्जाजरेट किया जा रहा है. इट इज़ डन टू परसुएट, टू कन्वेंस, टू फ्लैटर, टू ऊ वंस बिलवड. ठीक है, हाइपरबोल्स. इनफैक्ट वन ऑफ द मोस्ट pertinent examples of exaggeration is Macbeth's certain speeches, where you find that Macbeth says, if I wash this hand of mine in a green sea, the green sea will turn incarnadine, means it will turn red. So that obviously the ocean or seas cannot turn red because my hands are red. I wash my hands in the waters of the sea does not mean that the sea turns red. So that is an example of hyperbole. In fact, एक लड़की को देखा तो ऐसा लगा is an example of simile. The whole song is based on simile, but it also has hyperbole in it. Okay. So the next figure of speech that I am talking about here is metaphor. You have to remember that for memory's sake, simile and metaphor are interconnected. You might say that, you can say that they both are sisters, twin sisters with a little difference. How do you identify a simile from a metaphor, or a metaphor from a simile? How do you identify? First, let us clear the concept of a metaphor. What is a metaphor? So the definition of metaphor is, a metaphor is a word or phrase. A metaphor is a word or phrase for one thing that is used in place of another thing, that is used in place of another thing in order to show or suggest, in order to show or suggest that they are similar. In order to show or suggest that they are similar. Okay, this is the definition. You need to memorize this definition. Now let me explain what a metaphor is, and why do I say that metaphor and simile are actually twins. Why do I say that? Now suppose, let me first give you an example of a metaphor. Write down the example. The camel is the ship of desert. The camel is the ship of desert. The camel is the ship of desert. Now, after you write down the sentence, while we were doing simile, I have given you a similar example. The only difference between the two sentences is, when we were writing a sentence on simile, it was connected with the word like, L-I-K-E. Camel was being compared to a ship and the connecting word was like. In the case of metaphor, the sentence that I gave you is, the camel is the ship of desert. If we talk of grammar of this particular sentence, the sentence is grammatically correct. There is no grammatical error in this particular sentence. The only difference is that there is no like, there is no connecting word, but we have a comparison. Camel is still being compared to a ship. ठीक है, यहाँ पर भी कैमल को शिप के साथ ही कंपेयर किया जा रहा है, लेकिन यहाँ पर लाइक वर्ड नहीं है, लेकिन कंपैरिजन है. तार माने द कंपैरिजन इन अ सिमिली was connected with like, and it was an explicit comparison in the case of simile. But in the case of metaphor, it is just the opposite. You do not have a connecting word like or as, and the comparison in metaphor is implicit. So, what is the opposite of explicit? If simile is explicit comparison, metaphor is implicit comparison, one that is hidden. You need to decipher the comparison. You need to delve deep into the sentence and find its meaning, because it's not as clear as it was in simile. In simile, it was very easy for us to determine whether this sentence is a simile or not. There was a comparison and there was this connecting word called like. But in the case of metaphor, that is not possible. Okay, so like and as, a like or as is not used in a metaphor, but a comparison is there. Now I give you another example of metaphor. Suppose if I say that variety is the spice of life. Variety is the spice of life. Now what is the comparison here? The comparison here is variety is being compared to spice. जीवन में वैरायटी नहीं होगी तो जीवन जीने का मजा नहीं आएगा। জীবনে যদি ভ্যারাইটি না থাকে তাহলে তো লাইফ লিড করার কোনো আনন্দটাই থাকবে না। তার মানে वैरायटीকে कंपेयर करा হচ্ছে মশলার সাথে, কিন্তু लाइक और एज नहीं, वैरायटी को कंपेयर किया गया है मसाले के साथ, लेकिन यहाँ पर एज या लाइक नहीं है। द कंपैरिजन इज इम्प्लिसिट एंड सो इट इज़ एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ मेटाफर। टू गिव यू अनदर एग्जाम्पल, लाइफ इज one big roller coaster ride. Life is one big roller coaster ride. Life is one big roller coaster ride. Now, what is the comparison here? Life is being compared to a roller coaster. What is a roller coaster? If you have ever been to Nico Park, or if you have ever seen Discovery Channel, you will find that you have these roller coasters. Sometimes it goes up and comes down. I am the one who is most afraid of these roller coasters. पिक्चरों में ही अच्छा लगता है, खुद बड़ा डर लगता है। तो जो भी हो, life is one roller coaster ride, but there is a kind of a joy inherent in that particular ride. Whoever completes that particular ride, there is something to be achieved in that, a kind of a pleasure to be achieved from that particular ride. You can take it a try once if you haven't. So life is one big roller coaster ride. So our life is like a roller coaster. कभी अच्छे दिन आते हैं जो अभी चल रहे हैं, और कभी बुरे दिन आते हैं, ठीक है। तो अच्छे और बुरे दिन चलते ही रहते हैं, और हमारे अच्छे दिन 2014 से चल रहे हैं, बाय द वे। सो दिस इज व्हाट metaphor is all about. Metaphor is about comparison, but it is an implicit comparison. Okay. তারপরে I hope this particular metaphor, the concept of metaphor, is clear to you. Now we move on to another figure of speech. The next figure of speech that we will be dealing is personification. The next figure of speech is personification. So, what is personification? First, let us write down the definition of a personification. The practice of representing an inanimate object or an abstract idea as a person, P-E-R-S-O-N, as a person, and endowing it, E-N-D-O-W-I-N-G, and endowing it, E-N-D-O-W-I-N-G, endowing it with human traits, endowing it with human, H-U-M-A-N, human traits, T-R-A-I-T-S, endowing it with human traits. Now, going by this particular definition that I told you just now, let us first give an example to clear the concept of personification. It's a very easy figure of speech. Suppose if I give you an example, death lays, L-A-Y-S, death lays It's ITS. It's icy hands. Icy hands even on kings. Death lays its icy hands even on kings. Even on kings, Kings. Okay. Now, death lays its icy hand even on kings. Have you ever seen death? We have never seen Yamraj coming to this earth. We have always felt the presence of Yamraj. We have never seen him. तो अगर यमराज को हम लोगों ने कभी देखा ही नहीं है, if we haven't seen Yamraj, how do we know that Yamraj is a man or a woman? ठीक है, how do we know? We don't exactly know that whether Yamraj is a human being. How do we know that Yamraj is a human being? We have never seen Yamraj in front of us apart from our father, mother and wives. We haven't seen them. Okay, so that means what we are doing is that we are endowing, we are giving a humanly trait, a human characteristic to an abstract idea. Now, abstract idea means one that can be felt and cannot be seen. Death is an abstract idea. You haven't seen death, we have felt death. Abstract ideas means ones that can be felt. And what we are doing is we are giving or we are attributing a humanly characteristic to that particular abstract idea. Here, death. What is the sentence that I did give you? The sentence is death lays its icy hands, HANDS. If death is an abstract idea, how do we know that death has hands? It's impossible for us to know that whether death has hands or not. So I am giving a humanly quality to an abstract idea. So this is an example of personification. This is an abstract idea. Now, in the case of inanimate object means a mobile phone is an inanimate object. Inanimate in a sense which has no life. So when I say that my mobile is bleeding, or if I say the tree is wounded, देखो कितना बड़ा घाव लगा है, देखो मैंने घाटा देखो गाछेर. That means I am giving a humanly quality. Who can be wounded? A man can be wounded. A human being, an animal can be wounded. I am giving that particular trait to a inanimate object. So that is an example of personification. Okay. So this is what personification is. Okay. Now we move on. Acha, to give you another example of personification, a very a good example of personification as such. If I say that the trees were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The trees were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, you will definitely ask me, how can the trees dance or flutter? The trees can never dance. Human beings can dance. Animals can dance. So that means this line is also an example of personification. And the most important part of this is whenever we go to a court, if you have ever visited a court, you will find that there is a statue standing blindfolded kind of. She can't see what's in front of her and she has scales in her hand. हिंदी फिल्म देखोगे तो हिंदी फिल्मों में तो यू विल फाइंड अमिताभ बच्चन रेजिंग हिज वॉइस एंड शाउटिंग एट द टॉप ऑफ हिज वॉइस और गाना गा रहे हैं, ये अंधा कानून है. Why is Amitabh Bachchan calling justice blind? Because she is blindfolded. उसके आंखों के सामने पट्टी लगी हुई है, इसीलिए अमिताभ उसको कहते हैं कि वो अंधा है. Justice is blind, अंधा कानून. But justice being blindfolded, that is not the meaning of it. The meaning of that particular statue is maintaining a kind of a objectivity. Justice will not see that whether the criminal is a rich man or a poor man. So to maintain a kind of an objectivity, you find a statue which is blindfolded. That is the real meaning of that particular statue. That means that particular woman with a blindfold in her eyes, she represents, she is actually a personification of justice. So that particular model or that particular lady is also an example of personification of justice and objectivity as such. Okay. Now we move on to the next figure of speech, that is apostrophe. That is apostrophe. 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 First, let us write down the definition of apostrophe. It is the addressing of a. It is the addressing of a. It is the addressing of a usually absent person. Usually absent person. It is the addressing of a usually absent person or a usually personified thing or a usually personified thing or a usually personified thing rhetorically. 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 This is the definition of apostrophe. Apostrophe is an impassioned address made to someone who might be present, who might not be present. Suppose অনেক সময় রাস্তায় হাঁটতে হাঁটতে আমরা হোঁচট খেয়ে একটু পড়ে যাই. The first thing that comes to the mouth is ओमा. ठीक है, जब हम लोग थोड़ा धक्का खा के नीचे गिर जाते हैं तो मुंह से पहले एक आवाज़ आती है ओमा. तार माने हम लोगों ने किसको बुलाया? माँ को बुलाया. दैट इज़ एन इम्पैशन्ड एड्रेस मेड टू समवन. ओ माँ. ठीक है, एंड यू नीड टू रिमेंबर कि অ্যাপোস্ট্রফি में एक সেন্টেন্সে সবসময় একটা এক্সক্লেমেশন মার্ক থাকে. But you have to be very clever while doing this, because exclamation mark can also be used in an exclamatory sentence without being addressed to someone. So when you read that particular sentence with an exclamation mark, find out to whom it is addressed to. Because only when a sentence with an exclamation mark is actually addressed to someone will it be an example of apostrophe. When I say, oh mom, exclamation mark, where are you? Oh mom, exclamation mark, where are you? So whom do I call? My mother. Whom am I addressing? It's my mother whom I am addressing. Okay, so this is how you need to differentiate between an exclamatory sentence and an apostrophe. Apostrophe means an address made to someone. Suppose if I give you an example, twinkle twinkle little star. We have all gone through a particular phase in our life where twinkle twinkle Humpty Dumpty have form a very important part of our life. Our nurseries and KGs are actually filled with these kind of rhymes. So twinkle twinkle little star, whom am I addressing to? Definitely it's the star whom I am addressing. So twinkle twinkle little star is an example of apostrophe. Okay, now I give you another literary example. Milton, the sentence is Milton, exclamation mark, Milton, exclamation mark, thou, THOU, thou shouldest be living, thou shouldest be living at this hour, thou shouldest be living, LIVING, at this hour, HOUR. Milton, exclamation mark, thou shouldest be living at this hour. So who is being addressed here? Definitely Milton is being addressed. And who is Milton? We know very well who Milton is. Milton is actually the writer of a very great epic called Paradise Lost. I suppose we lost our paradise while studying it. Okay, so that is what apostrophe is. Now we move on to the last figure of speech for today, that is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. I suppose this is the fifth one today. onomatopoeia, O-N-O, and the video is almost 34 minutes long, so you won't be able to concentrate so long. So let it be till 40 minutes as such. Onomatopoeia, O-N-O, mato, M-A-T-O, mato, poia, P-O-E-I-A, onomatopoeia. Now the definition of it, the formation of a word, W-O-R-D, the formation of a word from a sound associated with what is named, N-A-M-E-D, what is named. Okay, the definition might sound very complex, but the concept is a very easy, one of the easiest concepts that we have in this particular figure of speech. Onomatopoeia, plainly speaking, is a figure of speech that deals with sound. It is a figure of speech that deals with sound. It can be any sound. It can be the sound of my voice. It can be the fan. It can be the birds twittering in the sky. It can be the engine whistling, horns honking. So any sound that is there is an example of onomatopoeia. To give you a very simple example, birds are twittering in the sky. Birds are twittering in the sky. So in this particular sentence, the word twittering is an example of onomatopoeia. So onomatopoeia is a figure of speech that deals with sound. So anywhere you find this particular sound that's coming, it's the hissing sound of the snake, that is also onomatopoeia. Croak croak of a frog is also an example of onomatopoeia. Barking of a dog bark is also an example of onomatopoeia. But there is one important point that you need to remember here. We have just 3 minutes more for this particular video to end. And before it ends, let me give you the last point about onomatopoeia. The last point about onomatopoeia is, suppose if I say, I hear, H-E-A-R, hear. The sentence ends there, I hear, full stop. This sentence is also an example of onomatopoeia because you have this word hear, H-E-A-R. Now, if you are hearing something, that means sound is present somewhere. Okay, so this indirect references to sound will also be an example of onomatopoeia. You need to be very clear about it. I heard, full stop. So heard is also an example of onomatopoeia because somewhere down the line there is a sound that's ringing. Suppose if I say the curfew tolls the knell. I think you people have gone through Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray in your previous semester, and you know that there was this particular very famous line, the curfew tolls the knell of the dying bell. Okay, of the dying day or something like that. The curfew tolls the knell of the dying day it was. Knell, what do you mean by the word knell? K-N-E-L-L. Knell means a kind of a sound of bell ringing. Knell means the death bell. You get this particular word knell in Macbeth also. If you remember, when Macbeth was going to murder Duncan, he advised his wife to ring a particular bell, and when the wife rings that particular bell, there is this very famous line by Macbeth when he says that, hear it not Duncan, it is your knell, it is your death bell, so hear it not Duncan. So knell is also a sound, so it is an example of onomatopoeia. So these are the 5 figure of speech that we have done today. I will give you some of the exercises after we complete some more of it. Okay, so I hope these 5 figures of speech will be clear to you. We will be meeting again quite soon. Hope you come to this YouTube channel and do listen to and do watch this video and do make a note of what I have been saying. That will be very important thing for you to do. And obviously exercises of figures of speech must be done. Those exercises will be provided by me after the rhetoric classes end. Okay, so with this, we end this lecture of ours. This is first in the series of this particular semester, semester 5. I hope there won't be any problem understanding what we have taught as of now. Thank you.